has done everything from wax museums to Washington, D.C. gridiron shows that go back over 124 years. I felt that George Goebel deserved a kind of a literary place in the magic fraternity. I asked him if I could write a book about him. Now, the important thing is he didn't ask me. When he agreed, he simply said, "Well, Bill, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't." In the course of the project, he never pushed me, never showed impatience. He never asked when it would be done or showed anything but cooperation, and that was vintage Goebel. At my request, he sent me box after box of historical materials, photos, tapes. The show tape is very rare because there aren't that many of the show tapes and they vary. And film clips of escape work in Japan, outdoor fair appearances, rehearsal tapes, and historical material on the Jones Company, which goes back to 1868. Old Jones was the one that even took makeup to Edwin Booth, the brother of John Wilkes Booth, when Edwin played Washington. This did not include, for me, countless phone conversations, interviews with those who knew him, and inspection of his vast collection in his home. Get that? Vast collection in his home, which has the ambiance of a place almost where you'd think an old actor lived. Well, now I'm going to show you a few photos of his home accented with magic just about everywhere, and some items from his collection. This does not include the cellar and the attic, and tons of magic at the Jones Company building. I wonder if our engineers could activate my lapel mic for a moment. Is that possible? Yep. Thank you very much. And I'll step away from the, step away from the podium. Can you hear me? Yes, you can. All right. I will tell you in a moment very quickly. This is the dining room of George's house with Houdini sitting in the corner. And all around it are artifacts and memorabilia of magic, which is really decorative. It isn't so much one magic room where everything is in one place, but it's set in such a way that you feel a feeling there. Here is an upstairs room, very Victorian. Magic is everywhere. Next slide, please. And here are cabinets just filled with odds and ends of anything you can think of. Here are mummy cases, two heads that were made by the Dorfman Museum Company that makes figures for wax museums everywhere, which George has worked with around the country. Here are some paintings and other items. Of course, posters of Thurston, manuscripts, you name it. There's just so much there that it's overwhelming. This is Houdini's dollhouse. You'll read about it in the book. And that's George. It is George. Showing it to us. And there is George with some of his collection of handcuffs, which were an enormous amount of handcuffs. And that's the steps that belong to Tampa, which Tampa used in his show. You wouldn't think it would hold a person, but it can. Yeah. Here is, of course, an early certificate of Thurston's, which Thurston was going to get into the motion picture business, but didn't, really. Here are more handcuffs, more items, more handcuffs. I mean, it just goes on and on. That's a chair from Ford's Theater from the time when Keller anointed Thurston as his successor. And then we have stocks that belong to Houdini, wrist stocks. And then we have other cabinets filled with all kinds of odds and ends and wonderful things, as Carter said when he looked at the tomb of King Tut. This is the chair that was in Thurston's house. It's in Thurston's book, My Life of Magic, which he got on that Chinese adventure into a home and when he was looking for his pay. That's very, very rare. Next. Here is the silk gun of Madame Herman. There's a very early picture of Thurston with a troupe that he was with. Thurston is on the bicycle. And Jane Thurston's umbrella when she did the production of The Flowers. A relief that was commissioned by Thomas Chew Worthington, which he has of Herman and Keller and Thurston. calendars that Thurston produced, dozens and dozens of them with different photographs on them. That is the blooming rose bush of Virgil and Julie. And this is a wand made from wood by Keller from the front of his home, from a tree. Here is a number of challenges. There's no end to those. Challenges, challenges, and more challenges. I couldn't show them all, of course. Take all night to show them all. This is a set of glass slides that Thomas Chew Worthington used when he gave his lecture on the life of Thurston. That's where I found the picture of Thurston's casket being carried out of the church. And also his viewing with all the flowers around his casket is in the book. All right, there we go. There, look, there's some very special handcuffs, thumb cuffs, signed copies, of course, of just about everything. Naturally, Houdini books signed. Another one. There's a whole collection of Christmas cards. All kinds of postcards that Houdini sent almost every day, to his relatives and other people. Then we have this Winter Garden poster, I think, which is very unusual. And then we have some equipment from Thomas Chew Worthington, hand-painted with Egyptian motif. And another piece, which is hard to figure out. It's sort of like a triple floral, but it isn't. And then, of course, other items, as you can observe. We'll just go right along here. Of course, the little projector that Thurston sold. There is a whole scrapbooks of Thurston, and more Thurston. Next. There's a wonderful portrait of Herman. And now this is a quick picture of the costume company, which, let me tell you, is a time warp. I'm sorry to say this, George, but it's a spooky place. And there are 3 floors there, and you could be anybody you want. You could go in there and come out Maria Antoinette or King Lear, whatever you want to do. The armor, hats, there must be thousands of hats and swords and armor. That's the basement in the crypt where there are dozens of trunks. God knows what's in them. Even he doesn't know what's in them. And this is some of the memorabilia. There's a sword there that Edwin Booth used in Shakespeare plays. Now, the reason I showed this, that's Pogo. Yeah, Pogo is there at the end because I figured he's guarding the collection from all of you. All right. When George finally mentioned my wanting to do this book project to Aunt Helen, that would be his wife Carol's aunt. She works there. She's over 88. She still works there. And she said to George, I think this is a winner, she said, well, George, what would anyone really have to say about you? Who would want to write a book about you, George? Well, I discovered through research, which incidentally I characterize as a blind date with knowledge, that there was a lot to say about George Goebel. The more I probed, the more I examined and sorted materials in vast amounts, talked with his once manager and booking agent, McCarl Roberts, who's here tonight, and his longtime friend, Mark Walker, and a host of others related to hundreds of shows that he costumed and explored, and aspects of Goebel's career that I went into, I found that he was indeed beyond the many-faceted person that I had imagined. Now, the end result was a book that covered not only a magic career, but an escape artist, a magic collector, an art collector, a costumer, a man of the theater, and what I call a man with a magical mind. I found that Goebel could create drama with magic, music, mystery, and costumes. I'm reminded of something that Milbourne Christopher said. Goebel knew Christopher very, very well and assisted him on the Jackie Gleason show, Gary Moore show, and other shows. Christopher is a man Goebel greatly admires, And Christopher said, quote, "Mystery is the basic appeal of magic. Once the secrets are known, the magician becomes a mere manipulator, an actor in a suspense drama which has little impact because the audience knows the ending in advance," unquote.